Away, Rob.
Thanks very much. I got called in at the last minute to do today, so I was due next week. So some of you will have seen some of the things I'm about to put up today. I'll try and put a different bit of a slant on it. But the things I'd like you to understand is that whether it's in your small business or whether it's probably more importantly in your family, we're there to help and we come to you. It's a really important part of the business, and the things that we do when we get there include virus and malware removal, repairs either on the site or in the workshop. And people often ask me, how much does it cost me more if I go to the workshop? It goes to the workshop. The answer to that's no. You can't penalise people for the fact that you haven't got a park in your car, or that it's going to take all night to do a bunch of downloads. You can't sit at their house and just rack up the hours. So that's one of those things that you might want to bear in the back of your mind when you're a bit concerned about when Rob as the repairman says that he needs to take the time to the workshop. Software, I can buy software or install it. I had a referral which came through BNI recently. Someone had got Kaspersky, and anyone that's dealt with that before knows that, and Alex, you'll help me here, it's a 50-50 chance sometimes for people who don't understand the software well, particularly if they don't uninstall a previous version before they put the new one on. So you get in, you clean it up and put it on. I sell and manufacture equipment, desktop machines. I make myself and make them to order. As some people will say, I don't want a Rolls Royce, I just want a Holden. We can manage that sort of thing. And then there's other people who just want mini miners, we can do that as well. Training, my entry into the field I'm in was through the fact that I was pretty adept at using Word and Excel, most of the Microsoft Office products and some other proprietary software. So if you need that sort of help, or someone in your family does, just get them to give me a call. Insurance reports and replacements. Quite often people, if you ring up and say, I've had an electrical event in the house, and it's pretty common when the thunderstorm season starts, you get zapped and suddenly the TV's gone, the computer's gone, and half a dozen other electrical appliances. Your average insurance company, once you've paid your excess, is pretty willing just to make sure that things get replaced. Sometimes they say just go down to Harvey Norman, but other times they'll say, well, we're going to pay out, we replace the equipment and the software in full, we don't rewrite records. Because you're not pressing the records side of things because you've done your backup, then you've got a pot of money and you can sit down and have a chat with someone about getting a replacement. Small office fit-outs, basically. Alex and Jay, if there's a server involved, they're the people for you, and that's one of the reasons we wanted someone like them in the group as well, because it's not something that I do cover. But if you've got, like say Steve Everett's office, for example, a couple of computers and a printer and a router, then I'm probably the man for you. There we go. So we come to you, that's probably the biggie. We don't always crash through the front door, sometimes we use the side wall. And we send out pretty reputable looking jokers to see you. And there we go, there's the small office situation that I was speaking about. There's some equipment. That's actually my lab machine. And what do I mean by lab machine? It's not a Frankenstein machine, but in the side here, I don't know if you can actually see it, there's about 4 drives in there. It's an i7 machine for the boffins in the room. It's got no graphics card because the graphics card's wasted on a pair of eyes like mine. But the thing about it is it's got over 10 terabytes of storage. Now that's a particular need for me because before I do any of your jobs, I back your stuff up. Right? I back it up, I put a password on it to make sure that if anything goes wrong in the process that I'm performing on your behalf, we've backed all the stuff up beforehand. And in addition to that, if the machine got stolen, there's a password on it. Okay, so it's safe. In terms of housekeeping, what I do is every 6 months, roughly, I go back through, and if your records are still there and you haven't given me a call in that time, I reformat that part of that petition. And that way I can reassure you that not only are you backed up, you get the best of both worlds, you know that I'm getting rid of it down the track. New desktops are a thing, as I said, we build them, we put whatever operating system on that you want. I've got in there even XP. It's I've been reading some interesting articles during the week that even though XP's gone ex-service now, there's quite a lot of companies there, particularly where there's not a heavy involvement with communicating with the internet, are still servicing XPs. Does everyone know what I mean by XP in terms of an operating system? Okay. I think it's, Alex might correct me here, but about 35% of all ATMs in Australia still run on XP. Yeah. Is that about right? 35%? So it's not dead as an operating system, that if you want cash, it better not die in a hell of a hurry. So if you're using it out there and you're feeling an urge to ring Jane, yourself or Alex and say, I've got XP, I feel worried, just relax. It's something that's manageable. Okay? And you can talk to me about it afterwards if you have been thinking about it. There you go, that's the equipment we're still talking about. Dual screens, you get a great perspective on things. There's a lot of people who grew up without computers but have grown into them. They've had to. If they want to keep working for the next 10 years or so, their bosses basically said, well, get into the computer or find another job. And I quite often find them, they'll be sitting, it could be a laptop or even a desktop with a screen, they'll be sitting there and the paper that they're transposing from into either proprietary software or a spreadsheet, it's really important to them to have, you know, this interaction between the two things. And that's principally because what they've got open on the screen to them, they can't apply to perhaps the, might be mild or something like that, because they don't feel really comfortable going Alt-Tab or opening two windows at the same time. When you put two screens in front of a person like that, and you demonstrate to them, look, you can open Mild, you can move the register that you're checking now or looking at over to there, and then enter it into the spreadsheet on this screen, or vice versa, they suddenly start to feel a little bit more comfortable. And that thing that their boss has told them about being a paperless office starts to come true. Okay, so think about that in your own office situation. It's the most unlikely people benefit from it in a fairly big way. Dave's sister, for example, just said to me during the middle of a conversation about another job, she said, what do you think about it? And I talked her through an example like that. She said, how about coming back on Friday and doing it? And it suddenly went from a good paying job to a really good paying job. And
she loves it.
Yeah, well, it makes you, it suddenly takes your computer from being a little bit of a chore, if you're not natural with them, to actually being able to see where you're going and laying stuff out. The desktop, for the first time since it was introduced years ago, starts to make a bit of sense to you. There's, that's in Kelly's business. We all know Kelly, Milburn Friendly Services. And she's got 3 setups like that. She did that the last time we had a chat. Okay. Short lead times. I do only work on my own, but the good thing is I've generally only got something between 2 and 5 jobs on the go at a time. So I try and sort of make sure that people get things pretty quickly. Yesterday afternoon I was out at a job. The XP machine, which was getting information from a common drive, couldn't see the drive. What had happened, and they don't tell you straight away, what had happened was the virusware had been updated, so the firewall conditions had changed. Alex will tell you how we probably walks into these sorts of jobs every day, and you know, you've been there 3/4 of an hour and suddenly, even though you've asked all these questions about has anything changed, they then tell you that. So you find that you're into it. But so we did that, we fixed it, but at the same time, part of the problem that was presenting was being caused by the fact that they were in a business environment, still in a pretty old piece of equipment. So she said to me, look, you know, I want to buy a new machine, when could I have it? So tomorrow afternoon, so it's a day and a half later, I pick up the old machine. Monday morning I deliver a brand new machine with everything in place. Finance. Steve came to me early on in the piece and said, through the previous owner of the business, who'd been in BNI with Steve also, we fixed up finance for equipment. Can you still do it? I can. So if we're setting up either a little office or we're helping your mum set up a desktop machine at home, it can be financed for a pretty reasonable sort of rate. Not much more than a couple of weekly lunches. Is that about right, Steve? Yeah. Okay, so who needs me? Parents, your parents. Okay, you're all busy business people, and for those of you who still have parents that are alive, they're probably well into their computer for either email or photos of the grandkids and things like that. And every time they say to you, hey, can you come over and have a chat about the computer, you say, yeah, sure. You go over there and you need to be quick because you're on your way to your next job or next meeting. And they've got one more question as you're going out the door every time. You can't sit with them. I understand that, and that's why I focus on that sort of thing. I can sit there with them. The other thing, of course, is I look like half of them. I've got the same and some of the same bad habits, so I can just go and sit there and have a chat with them, and we'll work things out. Grandparents too. There's some pretty cluey old grandparents out there, and some of them live in retirement villages. And retirement villages are an interesting place for people with computers and so on. Sometimes the first time you do a job for people in a retirement village can take a little bit long because they want to tell you a story before you do the job. But it can be well worthwhile. They're the sort of people who've got a hell of a lot of influential people as people who can be influenced in their lives. You do a good job for these dudes, they tell these ones and they tell the kids, you know, it works down the line. Clubs. I'm pretty heavily involved in sporting club, and through the tribunal side of things actually have connections with lots of Aussie rules clubs. They're not the most fertile ground for work for me, but they do come up with situations where you can find someone that needs something, and it's not what you know, it's who you know and how you talk to them. You might realise that I've got a bent for a particular team. That's one of my grandkids.
Collingwood.
Okay, why? It's a big question, isn't it? And these are the sort of folks that are going to get a kick out of sitting and talking with. Quite often people, the first thing they'll say to me, no, sorry, it's good morning, how are you, would you like a cup of coffee? I hate computers. And I chuckle and think to myself, thank goodness for that, you know, because when they say that to me, they're the people who, when they pull their wallet out, they really don't mind, and they say, is that enough? You know, it's one of those sorts of things. So if you've got someone like that in your life, they're a customer for me. And we want to turn them into someone that's a bit happier about it at the end of the day. Maxine, who loves Maxine, eh? There you go. Someone, that's what I want to do, is turn them in from that frustrated person to the person that's sitting there and is quite happy with what they do. People who need custom-made equipment to fit their needs, people who get a chance to sit down with those who have the knowledge, who don't get to sit down, and people who don't get out into our world. I know what I'm trying to say there, but I hope you guys do too. It's basically, if you can't get out to help someone with a computer, someone in your family, just give me a call. Okie doke. And that's us. Thanks very much. Any questions?